you think about vision, like vision allows us to see past our current reality. So when you think about that, whatever you might be experiencing in life, as overwhelming as it might be, as challenging as it might feel, vision allows you to see hope even during times of despair. You can go through a challenging time in life and still come out on the other side better than what you were before.
Lex Gillette, man, welcome back to the See Through podcast.
What's going on? How are you?
Good. It's been, 3 years? I interviewed you in July of 2020, and now it's July 2023. And this podcast is still going on, man.
Yeah, going strong. Hey, that's great.
Yeah, just like this podcast, you're still going. You're still doing great things. You got a new book out that I want to talk to you about. And you got a lot going on in terms of the Paralympic world with the Olympics and all that. So we have a lot to cover. But I think, let's say someone didn't catch episode 4. Could you give them a quick intro of yourself to get everyone caught up with you?
Yeah, definitely. So I am a Paralympic track and field athlete. I compete primarily in the long jump and the 100 meters. So I've been competing for a while now. And given the fact that I compete in the Paralympics, that means that I have a disability. And my disability is that I am blind. So I lost my sight when I was 8 years old. It was a kind of random situation that led to a string of 10 operations to fix retina detachments. Those 10 were ultimately unsuccessful. And after the last one, doctors were just like, all right, we don't know what else to do. And from there, it was a gradual decrease in sight, and eventually woke up and really couldn't see anything. But great family, great support system, great network, people who really saw things within me before I was able to see them within myself. And it just poured into me as much energy, resources, programs, tools, technology. And that just really helped to shift my mind and how I view myself in the world, which ultimately led me beyond college and into this Paralympic ecosystem. So, it's been a lot of fun. Been to a bunch of Paralympics, a bunch of World Championships, and going for my 6th Paralympic Games, which will be Paris 2024. So training right now to make that team and get on that podium.
Let's go, man. Yeah, Paris 2024. Last time we were talking, you were gearing up for Tokyo. Yeah. And then that got just, obviously canceled due to the pandemic. So, But yeah, for those who don't know, Lex is a 4-time, world champion. He's a record holder in the Paralympic long jump. And you're an inspiration to a lot in that regard, especially not only with what you do in terms of your athleticism and your sport, and but also with what you say. You're a motivational speaker and an author. Just like we are reconnecting, time moves on. Sports, is something that unfortunately athletes can't do forever, right? Yeah. Do you feel like you still feel? Do you feel like you're at your peak of your athleticism, or is it getting more? Do you have to train harder or change your training at all as you age?
Yeah, it's definitely an evolution. So To your point, would I say that I'm in my peak years? Maybe not at the at its highest peak. Yeah, I still think that I have some great performances left in me. Yeah, but the reality of it is, it is, it is harder. It does take a few more minutes to warm up and to do certain drills and get yourself prepared for that workout, because you just don't have that same level of, athleticism or agility. And don't get me wrong, like I'm still very much like very competitive and very athletic and agile, but I'm not, this isn't 25-year-old Lex. It's not 28-year-old Lex. Yeah. So now being in my later 30s, I have to be mindful of the things that I'm doing pre-workout and post-workout so that I have the best shot at going to competition and having some great results.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And you do it right. You have like professional trainings, and you have a dietitian, I think, and all that. So it's
Yeah.
like you're the real deal. I recommend everyone go check out some YouTube videos of Lex. It's really fun to watch. And but yeah, the only reason I brought up your progression of maybe aging is because you're also progressing as an author too. This is your second book. And you probably didn't imagine when you were young that you would be a Paralympic long jump athlete, but you also probably didn't imagine that you would also be an author of 2 books
Right.
and a motivational speaker. So can you kind of tell everyone how you got into that world, that side of things?
Yeah. So when I had graduated from college, I had my first website made and I had a blog and stuff like that. So I've always written, even before I had my website. Growing up as a child, I would write short stories, and I don't know if I envision myself becoming an author, but at that particular time in life, in my mind, I was an author because I was writing so many different things. And so I just feel like, I don't know, it's just funny how life unravels and eventually a lot of these skills and things show up again in your life. And so I began to blog later on once I had that website, and just really trying to give people as much information around athletics and my life, and trying to link those things to relatable moments for everyone. I think just really leveraging all of those things to try to make as much impact. And so I knew that one day I wanted that to kind of culminate in a book where I could package all of my ideas and thoughts and get that out to the world so that people can hopefully read it and take something from it that would hopefully help them make some positive transformation in their own life.
So it seems like you're really focused on motivating others. Do you have a reason why you want to motivate others? Has someone motivated you before, and then that kind of made you feel like, oh, I can do that for others? And what kind of sparked like the drive to want to inspire and motivate others?
It was that. Yeah, I think all of the people who really poured into me,
Yeah,
from my mom to Mr. Whitmer to all the transition counselors that I had, guidance counselors, Boy Scout troop leaders. There were so many different people who helped me out in so many different ways. And so, yeah, I think that being able to take a lot of the experiences and stories that I have as an athlete and as a speaker, and put those things in a book and position them in a way that will hopefully help others. Like I've been able to do some really cool things in life. So, certainly want to share those, but sharing them with the intent of helping a reader see something within themselves, something hopefully, comes to mind or strikes a chord with them. And they're like, oh man, like I can go out here and do this. Or I've been thinking negatively or been feeling a certain way, but there was a certain sentence or a different perspective that Lex offered that helped me to really see this challenge differently. And that's the goal at the end of the day, just unlocking that potential in everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Because your new book is kind of focused on leadership, and it's kind of really in tune and kind of focused on leadership in the sense of, I know you do a lot of corporate kind of talks where, it can translate, your message can translate to not just someone with blindness or disability. It can translate to anyone. Why do you think, your message is resonating with these different audiences that, are new or maybe have never really been exposed to, the blind community or like a blind athlete like yourself? Why do you think your message is so well received?
I think that, I can't help but think about the fact that, we live in a world now where diversity, equity, and inclusion is, that is being amplified right now.
Definitely.
And so especially disability inclusion and awareness. So a lot of companies, I believe, are wanting to hear from voices of those who have a disability so that they can understand how to create their own strategy for being able to be as inclusive as possible. So hearing it from the community that it affects is going to help them in their overall strategic planning. I think also too, the beautiful thing about, you think about vision, like vision allows us to see past our current reality. So when you think about that, whatever you might be experiencing in life, as overwhelming as it might be, as challenging as it might feel, vision allows you to see hope even during times of despair. And so there's so much going on within our country right now. And I think the message is resonating because it's like, all right, well, you can go through a challenging time in life and still come out on the other side better than what you were before. And with employees feeling burnout, wanting to give up, and there seeming to be a lack of grit, I think a lot of companies are having me to come in and kind of reinvigorate and get that spark going again, so that the company can be even more productive than what they were previously.
Yeah, it seems like the pandemic kind of killed a lot of momentum for a lot of people, and people are still trying to get it back. Yeah, and everything's kind of a little different. Everything's changed now. A lot of people are working from home. I work from home, and it's like sometimes I find it hard to get motivated, that kind of thing. So I feel like there's this new thirst for your message in terms of, leadership and kind of sharpening your go-getter mentality and just getting motivated. And there's also a thirst for comedy now, in this day and age. I just feel like there's just this thirst for people to speak their truth and be authentic. There's just a thirst for authenticity right now.
Yeah.
And I also think that's why your message resonates, because your story's true, and when you present it, you're presenting it in a way that's and I think that people appreciate that, just how real you keep it.
No, definitely. No, I appreciate that. And I think that's something else that I kind of talk about within the book as well is, I want to be me, which means that sometimes you got to be vulnerable. Sometimes you have to take some risks.
Yeah.
And so, being able to present the message in a way where it encourages people to be more transparent and be vulnerable, because when you are that way, then I just feel like you don't have to, fake the funk, if you will. You can just operate naturally. And then also others are able to understand who you are. And as we think about, again, like disability inclusion and awareness, if you can be vulnerable and allow yourself to let people know, like, oh, okay, well, this is helpful, or this is useful, or that isn't helpful. It doesn't do anything but make the environment that much better, because you're opening up and letting others know what you need, and they have the, you're entrusting them, and I think that they feel that, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm making some impact as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, well, I'm thinking that there's a lot of gems within the book. I hope it is.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think a part of it is too, like in the year 2023, the victim mentality is kind of, like a currency now. It's kind of, people really are, not that I'm trying to sound mean or anything. Some people like to play that card more than others, and I, sometimes in the disability community or the blindness community, it's played quite often, and I think your message is, you keep it real, in the sense that you're saying it's not a walk in the park, it's challenging, and there's a lot, but you also provide, a message of don't let it stop you. And, that, and I think that is so needed, today. I think more messages like yours of, encouragement. How is that, in terms of how do you keep your mentality balanced? You seem like you have a really sharp mind and you have it figured out in the sense of your vision, like your book title is. How do you keep that vision so, progressive and moving forward while not letting, maybe those victim mentality thoughts pop into your head? Because we all have them, when people with disabilities, we all kind of have our moments where we get down. How do you keep those thoughts from balancing out? How do you keep those from winning?
Yeah, I think that, ultimately at the end of the day, I just know that those thoughts are going to do a lot more harm and they're going to impede my progress in reaching that vision. And so when I do think about those things, or it appears as though some sort of emotion that is just not what you're wanting to feel at that particular time, if those things are starting to present themselves, it's like, all right, this is just a part of the process. I think that you understand that you can't just have it easy. Like, easy doesn't require any sort of true decision making. If you're in your car and you're going cruise control, you just have your hands on the wheel for the most part. It's not really requiring much from you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're really trying to expand and grow and develop, you're gonna have to step out of that comfort zone. And a vision is meant to transform, mindsets and perceptions, culture, and the world. And something of that magnitude, you most definitely, you have to expand, you have to grow, because there needs to be another you that's better than the you that was yesterday. That vision is everything, is what you see beyond the horizon. And so it's going to take some really hard work, some grit, some resilience. It's going to take you going through the mud a little bit, but on the opposite side of those challenges, on the opposite side of your fear is something amazing.
Oh, I definitely agree. I'm a big, advocate for doing things outside of your comfort zone. And that's where your growth will come from. So if something terrifies you, I'm not saying just dive into it, but, make baby steps towards it. And then the more you kind of throw yourself into these situations to where you're uncomfortable, or the more comfortable you'll become in that uncomfortableness. And, you probably are super familiar with it. It's almost like a perfect metaphor in terms of you're an athlete and you're training, you're lifting weights, you're pushing your body to its max. So there's a mental strength that has to be present for physical strength to happen. Because I feel like if you have a weak mind, then it's going to be really hard to have a strong body.
Yeah.
So I think people underestimate that, how much mental fortitude goes into athleticism and strength training and training for a sport,
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I feel like your sport prepped you probably perfectly to kind of have this mentality, just because without it, you wouldn't be a 4-time, world champion. So, there's something obviously baked into your brain, is just your natural inclination. And I think it's cool that you're sharing that with everyone. I think it's good to get in the mind of someone like you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I didn't even think about that. So I'm thinking about when I was first introduced to the sport, and for it to be as, in those beginning stages, it was stressful. It was challenging. It was frightening, running and propelling yourself through the air and not knowing where you were going to land.
Yeah.
That definitely had a mind shift and kind of just set the stage for how I would be able to move forward in life now, the mindset that I do have. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a perfect metaphor. You could even say you took a leap of faith, so
Yeah.
there's all sorts of things. And your big phrase that you like to promote, and is one that, I think the blind community really enjoys and it resonates with, is, there's no need for sight when you have a vision. When did that phrase kind of, pop into your life, and then, what clicked and made you want to share that message?
That came out around 2007, 2008. And so initially I had written no need for a vision when you have a vision, given the fact that vision is ambiguous.
Yeah.
And so I was having a conversation with someone, and we were just like, they were just like, oh, why don't you just change the first vision to sight? So,
Yeah.
and then it just became no need for sight when you have a vision. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people, when they see it, they probably think, oh, okay, well, he's athlete who's blind, speaker who's blind, no need for sight when you have a vision. Okay, it makes sense. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I just realized it's not our eyes that determine success. It's our ability to see that vision, to not only see it, but then to develop a plan and connect with amazing people, the best people, and doing everything in your power to bring that vision into fruition. And so that's the framework for everybody. And the other thing I'll mention too is when I had lost my sight, I felt very disconnected from the rest of the world because I couldn't see anything. But after a while, you start to realize that at the end of the day, everything that has been created and everything that will be created, it always starts from a vision. You see it within yourself and you see it within others before it has the ability to become reality. And so, disability or not, that vision is something that it happens within you. And so it doesn't really matter what your disability is.
Yeah, you see it inside of your head, it's like a mental image, you have to kind of, it's like foresight, all right, I want to accomplish this goal. Mm-hmm. And then you have to think about, all right, well, how do I accomplish this goal? For example, you want to, be a, Paralympic gold medalist, so you have, all right, well, if I want to do that, then I need to, where do I start? And then I need to learn the mechanics of the sport, train for the sport, try to qualify at this event. There's all these steps in the process. So if you really want to accomplish a goal, and I think this is what I would suggest to people, if you really want to accomplish a goal, then you have to really think through all the steps and then try to, inch towards each step and just kind of take it one step at a time. But every day you can get a little bit closer, Yeah,
that's really good advice too, because a lot of times people, they see what it is that they want to achieve, and you naturally just want to have these huge steps and just, you want it to happen tomorrow, when in actuality is this incremental change. There's, if you can just, it's cliche, but get 1% better, then, there's a reason why it's cliche. It's true.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, I think people can get discouraged really easily if it doesn't happen as soon as possible. I want to be, let's say you want to get in shape. You're like, I want to get ripped. I want to have an 8-pack, and then you work out for 3 months and you get some results, but you definitely are not going to have an 8-pack in 3 months, And then they're like, well, dang, I didn't get as ripped as I thought. This is going to be a lot harder than I thought it would be. And then people can just say, well, all right, well, and then they quit and move on to something else, So seeing something through, requires patience and also realistic expectations, but also just effort. It takes the effort. If you don't do the effort, if you don't work out, then you're not going to get in shape. If you want to be an author and you don't write, then you're not going to have a book, So it's just like, whatever it is you want to do, you got to actually do,
Yeah.
And
That's
I
funny
think
how that works.
yeah. So when and when you have unrealistic standards or expectations, I think it's easier to get discouraged. So what I would suggest to people is, break your goals down and try to just progress slowly, like we just talked about, like the 1% each day kind of thing, think about how long your journey has been and it's still going,
Yeah.
so it never ends. So that's what's kind of exciting about it, is about passions. Once you find yours, it becomes easier to do the effort because you actually enjoy it. But even stuff you're passionate about, you don't want to do sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm guarantee you some days you're like, I don't feel like training today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't feel like
Absolutely.
writing today. I don't feel like doing a speech today. But you know that you owe it to yourself to do it. And you know that the best version of yourself wants you to do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just, again, it's just kind of that, like being comfortable in that uncomfortable,
Exactly.
Do you agree with that?
I definitely do.
Yeah.
Definitely do. Always trying to figure out ways to get a lot more comfortable with the uncomfortable. I know that's where you can really make some leaps and bounds in your growth and development. So yeah, I'm definitely down for that.
For sure. So let's talk about, so you have your new book out. I wanted to ask you, because in the first episode 4, throwback, we talked a lot about your training, but this time I kind of want to touch more on the writing side. So when it comes to writing, your books, what's the process for that? Do you try to write a little bit each day? Do you use voice over software, or do you work with someone? What's your process for writing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it was a number of things. With the first one, I had a number of blogs that I had written that were experiences I wanted to touch on in my book. So I took a lot of those entries. I then recorded a bunch of content using I think it's the Voice Memos app on the iPhone.
Oh, it's a great app. I use that all the time.
Yes. So I was recording a lot of stories using that strategy. And what I would do is take the file and have someone transcribe it. So then we had the words in Word.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And then I had an editor who helped me take those recordings and kind of position them in a way that, made the book flow. And then we took all of the blogs and things that I had written as well and kind of shifted some things around, moved some words, added some words, subtracted some words, and, kind of shaped it and molded it into what it is today.
Yeah. And it's very crisp, clean writing. And it's just kind of like, it's very in line with your motivational speaking and how your speeches sound.
Yeah, well, I think like the one, like the biggest thing that I wanted to do is like similar to how we're talking right now. Like that's the kind of cadence and flow that I want people to have when they read my book. I don't want you to I want you to feel like, oh man, this is just like my homie Lex talking to me.
Yeah.
Versus like being that person that's like talking at you, like, no, you need to do this. It's like, nah, like I want to present the information and do what I can and just kind of lead you to the water, but put the next decision into your hands. Like, you gonna drink the water or what?
Yeah, because I think, and this is understated, and sometimes I forget this, and I feel like maybe I cross the line, and maybe I come across sometimes, even when I don't want to, as if I'm trying to tell people how to think or act or live. But yeah, people don't really like that, do they? People don't really like being told how to think or how to live. So all you can try to do is plant seeds. There's a tactic you have to be using in your writing and your speeches. And even when I talk to you here on a podcast, or when you're on other podcasts or you're getting interviewed for whatever, if you're posting something on social media, that you're Lex, and you're being yourself. Is that easy to do? Do you sometimes get tempted to kind of pander or to maybe say something that you normally wouldn't say just because you think it might help you and propel your career? Sometimes there's topics on this podcast that I want to cover, but then I don't, because I'm like, I don't know if people want to hear that. And then sometimes I cover a topic because I know people want to talk about it, but I'm not actually that interested in it. Do you have any advice for, people who are, trying to be more, they're trying to be more authentic. Do you have any advice for people? Because you seem to have that on lock.
Yeah, I mean, I just think at the end of the day, like being yourself is going to be the easiest method. Is going to be the easiest way, because you're not having to act like someone else or do something that just totally doesn't align with who you are. Yeah, I mean, I don't, like why wouldn't you be yourself?
Yeah.
Like what is the quote? It's like, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
classic.
Like why wouldn't you want to be yourself? And I get it. I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, you might want to present a certain type of image, project a certain type of image, or appear to be a certain way. But again, I just feel like in the long run, you get found out. Like,
yeah.
So just be yourself from the start, and make it all as easy and smooth as possible.
I agree. And I think people are always finding themselves. I don't think, every day you can learn something new about yourself. So it's not like even someone like you've probably, discover new things about yourself all the time. It's a constant thing. So if someone out there is like, let's say someone is like, well, I'm trying to figure out who I am. The advice that I would give would be to just try a bunch of things, just go out, just try it and then see what sticks, what advice would you give someone who's trying to understand themselves more and find themselves?
Yeah, I would just build on that. I think that the first thing is really getting out there and seeing what your likes are, what really strikes a chord in your mind, and just go into those situations without any expectations. Because sometimes I think that when it's like, oh, why don't you try this activity, or why don't you try that? People sometimes already go into it like, well, I tried it before, I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you just never know. I mean, that was 5-10 years ago. So something might have changed. Something different might click now.
Yeah.
So just really getting out there, trying new things. And the extension to that, I would say, is don't allow, those external distractions to really discourage you from continuing to, try. Like, you might have some people who, this is very like, I guess not aggressive, but just over the top. But they might laugh at you or ridicule you and things like that. But
the haters out
everyone
there.
everyone has to start somewhere. And another quote that I really like that I heard a while back was, don't measure your start with someone's middle.
Oh yeah.
So basically, everyone has to start somewhere, and there's always going to be someone who's farther down the road than you, but that shouldn't deter you from going after what it is that you see for yourself.
Yeah, everybody's on a different timeline, That's a great quote. I like that quote that you just said.
Yeah. I like, it's funny because for every quote that I've given, it's like you're able to just very accurately surmise them in 3 or 4 words.
Maybe I should
That's a skill.
Get into the quote world. But yeah, but I think I think the reason why I'm able to do that is because you like quotes. You're telling me your favorite quotes. I have a document on my computer with just, when I hear a quote and I like it, I write it down, and every now and then I'll just read through all the quotes I've written down that I like. So, and I like to think about why they resonate with me. So maybe that's why, because I kind of practice that maybe, in my free time, because, sometimes, like I said, I'm trying to grow and be a better person, but sometimes I need a little bit of push. I need some help. I need a reminder, and some quotes will just remind you. Sometimes you can get lost in your day to day. Oh, I got to do the dishes. I got to cook dinner. I don't feel like doing that today. And then, or, just monotonous tasks can kind of cloud your brain. And sometimes you just need a reminder. You just need to get that fire lit again. Sometimes just a perfect quote can just do that so instantaneously. You just read it and you're like, oh yeah. And then you get fired up. And then you get all this energy, and then every now and then you got to get fired up again, and then every now and then you got to get fired up again, and it never ends. It's a cycle. Yeah. It kind of goes back to that like baby step thing. Just keep trying every day, and then try to find and use tactics that keep you trying. Yeah. Whatever works. Going back to what we were just talking about in terms of trying to find out who you are by trying things and figuring out things you don't enjoy doing. For example, you obviously enjoy what you do in terms of your motivational speaking, being an author, and being a Paralympic long jumper. You've had to have tried some things that you don't enjoy. Can you talk about those? What have you tried that you absolutely were just like, nope, not for me?
Man, that's a great question. I would probably say it's not that I disliked it per se.
Yeah.
Because I love the sport. I like goalball.
Okay.
And I was pretty good. Like I made a couple I was on a couple of high school teams and we won the title.
Can you describe goalball in case someone's unfamiliar?
Yeah, so goalball is a sport that is played by athletes who are blind and visually impaired. 3 athletes on either side of a court that's probably about the size of a volleyball court. And there's a player's box on either side that the 3 players have to stay within. So they stay within these tactile lines that they can feel on the ground. And they're rolling a ball back and forth that's probably around the size of a basketball. It has holes in the ball and there are bells inside. So when they roll the ball back and forth, they can hear where it is. And the 3 players are protecting the goal that is the length of the back line. Okay. And so, yeah, they're sliding on the ground on their side to block the ball.
Gotcha.
Sounds fun. The reason that I would say that I knew that it was probably time for me to transition on to something else is once you get to that elite level, those guys are throwing that ball. They're clocking the speed of the ball like 40 miles an hour and stuff like that. Like I'm 6'2", like 168, 169. My frame is, I'm a thin person.
Yeah.
So you throwing that ball like that, I'm like, let me get into something that's a little more, can save my frame. But, goalball it's a tough sport and it's totally evolved now. There's so many different tactics and strategies and just like Houdini acts that the athletes are able to do with the ball when they roll it and bounce it and stuff like that. It's pretty wild.
So you tried goalball, kind of figured out, okay, maybe it's not the best sport. I love you're like, I'm an athlete. I want to play a sport. Goalball is a sport I can play. But then you're like, all right, well, it's not really best suited for my frame. I'm going to try something different. And then, the opposite might have happened to a goalball player. They may have been tried, the long jump, been like, it's not good for my frame and I'm not. So then I'm going to try goalball. And then they end up sticking with goalball. And then you try long jump, and then you're like, I love long jump. So it's just kind of like everybody has, specific things that's going to be better for them. Not everything is going to be like, I could never be a long jumper. you know? So, you know, and that's okay, you know, because I'm happy people like you do it. You know, so, but everyone has something that you just got to kind of find and try, and something's tailored to you. You know, something out there is tailored. You know, if you're listening, you're wanting to find something. Something is out there, and it is tailored specifically just for you. It's just gonna take some time to find it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because goalball. That's a Paralympic sport.
Yeah.
When you go to these Paralympic events, as like, do you act as a spectator at all, or do you kind of have to focus on you and what your events are, or do you ever like go to, you know, to the goalball, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So of course, you know, you want to make sure that you have your you want to make sure that your you know, how you're going to go into the competition, the regimen, the schedule, you want to make sure you have those things laid out in a way that you can be at your best. But at the same time, a part of the experience when you go to these competitions is rooting on other teammates who are in your sport specifically, and going and checking out some of the other sports. So definitely Tokyo was a little more challenging because of COVID.
Yeah.
Really couldn't get out and about like that. But in Rio, yeah, definitely went and checked out the guys goalball. I want to say it was the bronze medal match,
Okay.
I believe. But yeah, no, it's always nice and going to support your friends, supporting other sports, and some of the sports, I mean, they add new things from quad to quad, depending on what sports get in and what don't. But there might be new sports that you just want to go and check out. So there's a learning process that goes on as well. It's like, you know, I haven't seen this before. Let me go ahead and check it out.
Yeah.
And now that learning allows you to be kind of an ambassador of sorts, because say that sport pops up in a conversation. Oh, I never heard of bocce before.
Mm-hmm.
You can be that person. Oh, well, you know, I saw that at you know, Rio 2016. This is how it works. It's really cool. You should check it out.
It's a cool flex.
Yeah.
You know, tell me about that, because I've never been to a Paralympic event. Can you tell me what the energy and the atmosphere is like at you know, the Paralympics? You know.
Yeah. If you are at a competition and there are medal events that are going on, so when I say that, medal events are events where the results are going to end in someone winning gold, silver, and bronze.
Yeah.
The crowd is probably, you know, whatever stadium it is probably packed out. I went and checked out my buddy Brad Snyder. He's a swimmer.
Okay.
We checked out one of his races in Rio 2016, and he had won gold. That place was rocking. Like, it was just going.
Yeah.
It was crazy inside of the gym where the pool was, and of course you go over to the other gym where goalball is, and the juxtaposition is totally different because the crowd needs to be super quiet.
Oh yeah.
So you walk in there,
you have to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the crowd, so it's packed inside, but it's so quiet until someone scores, and then the place goes bananas.
Yeah. I never thought of that.
So yeah. No, it's really cool to see all of the different environments and sports, and definitely good to see your buddies and cheer them on also. So it's a lot going on at the games. It's a great experience.
In terms of like accessibility at the Paralympics, like is there, like, for example, you're at your buddy's swim competition. Is there someone like an announcer, like maybe announcing, you know, it, you know, play by play, or is that do you have a guide with you, or can you tell me about that, like the accessibility of kind of participating in that?
You know what? I don't know what sorts of accessibility features are available when we're inside of those stadiums.
Yeah.
I personally don't think that there is much available. There are PA announcers who they're getting on the intercom, and they're saying athletes' names and their finishes and times and things like that. But even, you know, in that type of environment, it makes it difficult, because if the crowd is going absolutely haywire, then it makes it difficult to hear what's being said on the intercom, especially when you think about when we were in London in 2012. There were a couple times we were in the stadium when they had some of the British athletes were competing.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of them that won gold. And once they crossed that finish line, when I tell you the crowd went absolutely just bonkers, you couldn't hear anything in there. So I definitely think that, there probably could be some evolution from an accessibility standpoint that'll give athletes better access to what's going on. But the other thing I will say is when you see the coverage on TV back at the Village, or say you're checking it out on NBC, the commentators, I think they've been getting a lot better with, providing information around the event, the disability classes, the different athletes and things like that. So, it's just it's an ongoing journey when we're talking about accessibility. So.
Yeah, I've never thought about it in that sense because you probably listen to like TV and movies with like audio descriptions, and it'd be nice with sports too. Like I've actually never thought about where is sports at on that. Like if you listen to the radio, like even a baseball game, they kind of give you a play-by-play because they're trying to like paint, a visual of it. Do you feel like sports is up to speed, behind, or doing great, or in terms of being accessible for blind audiences?
Sometimes it feels like they might be behind.
Yeah.
But then the extension to that would be a lot of times I feel like they are there. They just haven't been made aware as to some of the changes or adaptations that they could easily make to be more inclusive and to, be more accessible. So you think about like TV, for example, a lot of times, you'll listen to the radio because the commentators give a lot more information around, what the players are looking like, what the jerseys look like, and where they are on the court and what they're doing with the basketball or football or whatever. And but when you watch the game on TV, I think they are assuming that if you have the TV on, then you're probably watching it, which means that the commentators might not have to be as descriptive. When in actuality, it's like, all right, well, why don't you just go ahead and, be as descriptive as possible? Because who's to say that, somebody might walk away from TV for a few minutes. Maybe they got to go in the kitchen and grab some snacks or drinks or things like that.
Yeah.
And now, okay, you're not so pressed to continue having your eyes glued to the TV because those commentators are conveying that game in a way where you don't even need to see the screen. So, I think that if we can be consistent across a lot of these mediums, then, it'll just, that alone, I think will make the experience a lot better, especially when we think about folks who are blind and visually impaired.
Yeah, I agree. I've had one past guest who he's blind. He's a skateboarder. His name's Justin Bishop. But he was talking about his dad who has sight. He got his dad into audio descriptions, and now his dad will be like doing chores and then watching TV, but he's not even really watching it. He's listening to the TV show's audio description, and he's like, basically it makes it like a book almost, like an audio book. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's like kind of a hack, just listen to the audio descriptions of a TV show and it makes it kind of like an audio book.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite, somebody put me on to this site a while ago. And so what they did was they basically ripped the audio from movies that were audio described.
Yeah.
So it was just the audio and they converted it into MP3s and you could go on this site and download the MP3s. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I had like Forrest Gump, Ray. So I'm on the plane.
Yeah.
Which, I can't, like, I don't, obviously I'm like almost total. And so you're just listening to the movies, which you're listening to it anyway. And I cannot remember what the name of that site was. I'm not even sure if
that's a good idea.
Still available, but yeah, it was real dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. If I can figure it out, I'll put it in the show description. But we'll see if I can find it. It might be banned. It might be illegal.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. But there was everything of like all of the classics. Like it was just yeah. Yes.
That's awesome. All right. Well, man, I think we covered a lot. And, you know, if we're 52 minutes in, I think we'll end there. I do want to give you a chance to tell everyone where they can find, you know, your book. You know, you got 2 books out. You know, where can people find you and root for you, you know, and all that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So the books are available on lexgillette.com, which is my website. You can order the book. You can order it autographed. Then the books are also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you know, the majority of your major bookstores. And you can find me on my website, lexgillette.com, and on all social at Lex Gillette, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'll have a link in the show description. You know, go visit lexgillette.com. And then you're on social media too. Your handle is just Lex Gillette, I believe, right?
Yep, that is true.
Sweet. And I'll have a link for that in the description. And then I guess I won't let you off the hook just yet. Can you tell people why they should buy your book? Is it for anyone? Just anyone can benefit from your book.
Yeah, I think that you want my book because it is going to allow you to gain an additional vantage point, a different sort of or type of visual acuity as it relates to seeing things for yourself and seeing things for other people. And so I know that power exists in everyone, and I hope that the book provides some sort of insight that will help people unlock that potential and unleash it into the world.
Perfect. If that doesn't get you to buy it, then I don't know what will.
Want it.
But that's it for this episode, man. I'm happy to have you back on. It's fun to reconnect, and it's cool to see you're still doing your thing. And, you know, I always love talking to you, man. You have such you're just so easy to talk to. So it's fun, man. So I'm thankful for you and your time.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.